This is the Gigabyte Brix Gaming, or the GB-BXi5G-760, to give it its full and thoroughly unappealing title. It's the latest in a line of tiny PCs from Gigabyte, but unlike its predecessors, this one packs some serious gaming horsepower. Despite only measuring a minuscule 128mm by 115mm, and with a height of just under 60mm, this new version of the Brix features a 2.8 GHz Core i5 processor and a custom NVIDIA GTX 760 graphics card with 6GB of memory. At $800, or around £560 without any RAM, hard drive or an OS, it certainly isn't cheap, and some sacrifices have been made in order to cram all that hardware into such a small chassis. Lurid green colour scheme aside, the Brix is a handsome unit, with a solid all-metal construction and a reassuring weight. Inside you'll find room for an M-SATA hard drive, 2 RAM slots for up to 16GB of laptop-style DDR3L memory, and a further connection for a regular 2.5-inch hard drive. Because the Brix comes bare bones, you'll need to buy and fit these yourself, but the process is easy enough for most people to do at home. Having space for an M-SATA and a 2.5-inch hard drive means you could easily fit a small SSD to the M-SATA port for your OS, and then buy a cheaper spinning platter disk for larger storage. We kitted ours out with one of Kingston's HyperX Fury SSDs and 8GB of DDR3L RAM. The front of the Brix sports 2 USB 3 ports and a headphone microphone jack, while round the back there's Gigabit Ethernet, 2 more USB 3 sockets, plus 2 mini HDMI ports and mini display ports for driving up to 3 displays at a time. There's also a plug for the laptop-style 180-watt power brick. It's slightly disappointing the power supply isn't integrated, but given what's already crammed into the Brix, it's an understandable sacrifice, and at least the power brick is relatively small. How well the Brix runs games is affected in part by the RAM and hard disk you slot inside, but with the components we used, and for such a small machine, the results are largely impressive. We found that most games ran at around the 1080p 60 benchmark when run at medium to high settings, but the machine struggled with more taxing titles. Battlefield 4 ran very well at high settings, hitting 51 frames per second, while Unreal Engine-powered BioShock Infinite at high hit 59 frames per second. The system really struggled with Crysis 3 though, managing only 48 frames per second at medium, while Metro Last Light was unplayable at high settings. Only by switching down the game to normal did the game average around 60 frames per second. Those are still good results for such a small box though, and certainly in line with a mid-range gaming system. However, there's a price premium attached to having all those components housed in such a small box, and you could certainly build a comparable full-size system yourself for less money. You'll also have to put up with a lot of fan noise if you decide to pick up a Brix. Even at idle, the Brix's fans are distracting, but boot up a game and they kick into overdrive. On a desk, it's obnoxiously loud, and even if you tucked it away into a cupboard, you're going to hear it. This thing pumps out a serious amount of heat, and it's clear that the cooling system, based on a copper heatsink sandwich and 2 little fans at the side of the case, isn't quite adequate for the hardware. In our testing, the GPU core temperature was pushing over 80 degrees, which is very toasty, and sometimes caused the GPU to throttle back its core and memory speed to compensate. That's a shame because on paper, the Brix Gaming would make for the ideal living room PC or Steam machine. It performs admirably for its size, but despite its power, the Brix is hamstrung by inadequate cooling. Here's hoping the next version can do better.